Answer that I think the federal government is trying to get in front of before national pharmacare is to be addressed through this PMPRB regulation, where they're actually suggesting to reduce drug prices, but by a drastic amount and in a very draconian way that really is going to position Canada as an outlier. So that's where my interest lies, because typically I wouldn't weigh in on just a pharma issue, but I think it's going to have deep impacts for patients, for the innovation community, right across the entire ecosystem that I represent. But I don't think that there's any industry that can take what case studies are showing right now to be anywhere from a 40 to 70% or more hit on their revenues and not have impacts into the investments that they make or the investments that they currently have. So I think that there's a real concern about potential job losses. There's a real concern from my perspective about the investments that these multinational pharmaceutical companies make into the province of Ontario to the benefits of Canadians and to Canadian firms. A great example is Johnson & Johnson, one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies globally. They put the only J-Labs Innovation Center outside of the US, right in downtown Toronto. And that's a system where they're bringing mentorship, commercialization expertise, and investment dollars to bear on Ontario companies to help them grow and succeed globally. Those are the sorts of investments that we're going to lose under this new regime. On paper, I think national pharmacare sounds great, but it all comes down to how that policy is going to be implemented. In Ontario, it played really well from a political lens. Free drugs for kids, who can argue with that? But the reality of it was, under a public program, a lot of the private insurers said, you have public coverage now, so we're not going to cover this. And the coverage under the public program was much different than what many patients were getting under the private plan. And so they found that they didn't have the same access under that. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and it shouldn't be. The number of people that have coverage is actually quite high. So I think a program really needs to address the gaps and really needs to be geared towards those patients that are most vulnerable and at risk. And I think that's a sensible approach rather than upheaving the whole system.